Hi, this is Alex, and if you love music, well, you've come to the right place because we're all about albums. Before I get to today's video, I wanted to talk about two relatively recent album releases that I think are quite good and I thought you should know about. First up is Madison Cunningham. She's been around for a while, and this is her most recent release, which is called Revealer. Now, I really love this album. Her singing is very strong, and the music is quite good as well. What's interesting about this album is that I've mentioned in the past I'm a big XTC fan, and on several of the cuts, the band which is backing her up almost sounds like music you would hear from the mid-period of XTC, probably around the time when they released English Settlement, which many consider one of their best albums. A good hint that I like the album is immediately when I finished the album, I flipped it back over and played the vinyl all over again, enjoying it even more the second time around. The second album is a brand new release that came out very recently by a band called Itasca, and the title is Imitation War. Itasca has been around for 15 plus years, and it is the handiwork of the wonderful singer-songwriter and guitarist Kayla Cohen. And this album is an expansion of what she's done in the past, which are these wispy vocals, which is quite moody and atmospheric, and has quite excellent finger picking here. I truly love the record. And for those of you out there who love Margot Timmons from the Cowboy Junkies and the music of the Cowboy Junkies, you'd really love this album. I have a few previous releases by Itasca, and I think this is by far their best album, and I think you should check it out. Today's video deals with new, exciting, young voices in music, which I think you should be aware of. Now, when I was going to talk about them individually, what I found was the reason I actually are speaking about them is they have a lot of similarities. And I really didn't set out to do this, but that's what happened while I was making the video. First off, all the artists I'm going to speak about are women, which is, no big deal, but I just thought I'd mention that. What's more interesting is the voices that they are singing with and the music that is accompanying them. And that is, you're going to hear a lot of music that sounds like standards, music from the American Songbook, from Tin Pan Alley. And the superficial look would say, oh, these are all jazz artists. And superficially, yes, that's correct. But when we discuss each of these individual artists, you see that they are introducing some exciting new sound in today's jazz world. And it would be really a disservice to them to just group them into one genre. What is cool about this sound is that it would resonate with a lot of young people today, and I think that they would have a big following of fans if they knew who these artists were. And although I titled this New Voices in Music, really it should be titled What is Old is New Again. I'm going to start with the artist that is best known out there, and that is the artist known as Loive. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name, but that is actually her first name, and that is her stage name, what she goes by. And she has a pretty good following already on TikTok and Instagram. She has several videos out there that you can see on YouTube, and she is getting more and more popular every day. What's interesting is her voice is sort of like a look backwards. She has a voice that can sing standards. And there was a bit of a controversy with her, which I don't think is really necessary. They were trying to figure out what genre she belongs to. Is she a jazz singer? Is she a pop vocalist? Is she an indie artist? And you know what? It doesn't really matter. She is who she is. And she has a wonderful, beautiful, pleasant voice that probably can sing pretty much any genre she puts her mind to. Loive is exciting as she is bringing a lot of new young fans into this world of hers. And with her retro voice, she may be turning on some of these young fans into the jazz genre, and that could only be a good thing. Loive is a singer-songwriter from Iceland. She's 24 years young, and that's exciting to me because she hopefully will be around for a very long career, and we'll see all the exciting things she will do and hopefully shake up the music world a little bit and bring about an understanding that, you know, maybe there isn't this idea of a specific genre, but rather the voice of a particular artist that is most important. Loive has a background in both classical and jazz music. She studied both cello and violin, and she can play the keyboards as well. She studied at the Berklee College of Music. In 2021, she released an EP entitled Typical of Me, and that received a lot of critical acclaim and attention. And after that, she then put out her first full-length album in 2022 entitled Everything I Know About Love. And yes, this does have a very retro feel to it, but it doesn't matter. It is a wonderful record just about anyone would enjoy. She has exquisite phrasing, vocalization, and wonderful tone. She just is a singer with a lot of beauty in her voice. She also released in 2023 her next album entitled Bewitched, and this won a Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Performance. Now, I've listened to both of these albums several times, and I can tell you that I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Actually, you can see I bought both of them, and with a new artist, that's a little bit unusual for me. I usually buy only one of the albums, live with it for a while, and if I really enjoy it, I then go out and buy another album by them. In this situation, I've streamed it several times, and I just knew that if I bought one, I'd say, why didn't I go out and buy the second one? So I just went out and bought both of them. I've paid them both several times, as I said, and I think they're both very enjoyable, really great records. I'm excited to see what she does next. Next up is another wonderful young female songstress, and this person has no difficulty in defining her genre. She is all in on the jazz genre, and this is the exciting and wonderful Samara Joy, which is short for her full name, which is Samara Joy McClendon. Samara is a traditional jazz vocalist, and yet her age and her voice don't seem to match up. She seems to have much more of a refined voice that you would have thought has been developing for many, many years till she got to this point. And yet she's also quite young, only 24 years of age today. Her voice, her phrasing is very, very similar to the great Ella Fitzgerald. And as some of you know out there, Ella Fitzgerald was number one on my list of great female singers of the 20th century. And therefore I had no difficulty in really loving Samara Joy. The accompanying musicians are stellar, and the sound quality is excellent as well. Her music, as I said with Loewe, is also quite beautiful and also very relaxing to the soul. She's released 2 albums to date. First is her self-titled album in 2021, and this is an excellent record. I suggest you listen to it, stream it, whatever, but it's quite excellent. No reservations about recommending this album whatsoever. She followed that up with her second album entitled Linger a While from 2022. Now, Samara won 2 awards at the Grammys, one which was a bit surprising, but I'm glad to see they acknowledged her. Best New Artist. Indeed, a jazz vocalist as Best New Artist. I don't know how common that is, but I don't think it could be that common. Also, she ended up winning the Grammy for the Best Jazz Voice Album. Little bit about Samara. She's from the Bronx in New York. She comes from a musical family who were gospel singers, so you can see where her roots are. And she studied in the SUNY system at Purchase College as a music major. Samara has traveled and has been touring and performing in Europe and also here in the United States, and has performed at the Monterey Jazz Festival. Samara is a truly great talent to watch. Next, I want to talk about a female vocal quartet. Yes, 4 female voices, and they are known as Sage, and the name comes from the initial from the first name of each artist, and that would be Sarah, Amanda, Janae, and Erin. The band came together in 2019, and they are not really a true typical jazz vocal group, but they have more of a modern sound. And I think if you listen carefully to their album, I think you can hear a little bit of R&B mixed with this standard jazz sound. The group formed as 2 of the members knew each other, and then they were introduced to other women who then spent a week trip to Palm Springs where they socialized, got to know each other, and felt that they would really click, and they were excited about making music together. After the women got to know each other, they did get together and did write 1 song, and the collaboration produced a song entitled Desert Song, which is found on their debut album. The power of this group, that is their uniqueness, comes from the blending and arranging of the 4 voices. When they really click, the sound is just magic. Their voices seem to float in the air, and they intertwine beautifully. In fact, the sound is so realistic, it is almost like a Dolby Atmos sound, even though this isn't Dolby Atmos. Also, it has a very holographic 3D effect, or maybe with these women I should say 4D effect. But regardless, it has a very live sound. They sound like they're in the room with you, and it is quite exciting sound. As I said, the music here is a blend of jazz and R&B with a modern twist. And this has some really beautiful and relaxing music. And this album is very well worth purchasing. I think that this is one of those albums when you come home from a really bad long day, you put this on, you take your glass of wine and you sit back and you just smile and relax and unwind. So Sage is the final new exciting voice in music that I think you should know about, and I highly recommend this album, as well as the other two artists I spoke about earlier. Loy Vey, again, I apologize for butchering her name, I'm sure, as well as the more traditional jazz singer with Ella Fitzgerald qualities, Samara Joy. As always, let me know in the comment section below what you think of these artists, especially after you've streamed them, or if you know these artists already, I'd love to hear from you. And now for last video's unknown album. The first unknown album. I'm kind of surprised that no one gave me the correct answer on this one. I thought it was pretty easy. The first unknown album is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, which came out in 1973. It is the 7th studio album by Elton, and this is a double album. This album has sold over 20 million copies worldwide, 8 million alone here in the US. And this album contains 17 songs, many of which were heard on the radio, and several have become rather well-known hits for Elton. The hit songs include Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Candle in the Wind, Saturday Night's All Right for Fightin', and their #1 hit off the album, Benny and the Jets. Rolling Stone ranked this album as number 91 of their 500 greatest albums of all time. And in the book talking about the 1,000 albums you should listen to before you die, this album is in that book. What I find really hard to believe about this album, it is said that Bernie Taupin wrote all the lyrics to this album in about 2.5 weeks, and Elton was able to write most of the melodies for the songs in just 3 days. And yet, this is probably one of Elton's greatest albums and also a defining album. The second unknown album, and this some of you out there did get, and this is the great album, The Stranger by Billy Joel, coming out in 1977, and it is on the Columbia label. Now, this is the 5th studio album from Billy Joel, and Columbia was thinking about getting rid of Billy because his last couple of albums didn't do so well. Piano Man did great, and the follow-ups really didn't find a large audience. What's interesting about this album is that Mr. Joel first wanted George Martin to produce the album, and George did agree. But Billy didn't go with George because George wanted to use studio musicians. Mr. Joel had other ideas. He wanted his band that he tours with to be on the album. And so he went to Phil Ramone. No, not one of the Ramones of the punk band, but Mr. Phil Ramone, who is a great, well-known producer, and he has a very large, important discography that he is part of. And anyway, Billy was excited to get him, and he got the sound that he was looking for. And Phil Ramone did do several more albums with Billy after The Stranger. Now, The Stranger garnered 4 top 40 hits, and the song Just the Way You Are reached #3 on the Billboard charts. And then in 1978 at the Grammys, The Stranger won Album of the Year, and the song Just the Way You Are won Song of the Year. This album sold over 10 million copies for Columbia, and to think Columbia was thinking of dropping Mr. Joel. And now for this video's unknown album, the first unknown album. Great, hope you got that one. The second unknown album. Great, hope you got that one too. As always, if you think you know the answer, let me know on the comment sections below, and I'll let you know how you did. As always, this is Alex with All About Albums. Thanks for listening, have a great day, and remember, keep them spinning.